we have this added layer of the virtual, the hybrid teams. Although we've had hybrid teams in the past, we've had virtual teams in the past that have operated really well globally. So what are some of those top 3 lessons you could probably offer to teams now to succeed?
Yeah, we've had hybrid teams. We haven't had that many of them, because one of the things to me that makes it, different is that it used to be if people reported to one manager, they tended to be co-located. And sure, you'd be on cross-functional teams with people around the world, but at least your manager, you were kind of in the same experience as your manager for the most part. So what's really new is we have intact teams that are hybrid. And so big watch outs for that. So one is trust develops differently depending on whether we're together in person or we're remote. So when you're in a hybrid team, some of the people are physically together in a place conducive to building trust, and some aren't. So those discrepancies or gaps that build up in who trusts each other more and less are a big watch out on virtual teams. Another is that we have not mastered the virtual collaboration technology very well. So we've kind of defaulted to either, okay, we all get on a Zoom call and look at each other's tiny little faces, or we do it by email or Slack. And those are kind of, for the most part, the only things we're using. So one of the things we need to do is, with a new reset, is we need to get much better at choosing modalities that suit the situation. So, one is research that shows if we're going to collaborate on a work product, we should turn off the video and just share our screen so that we're all looking at the same output, but we don't use up all the bandwidth that it takes to look at your face and be like, do you think she likes this? I don't know. Is she unhappy? I think she's scowling, right? And we're using a lot of bandwidth that's not focused on the output, but instead is just focused on trying to decode this really low fidelity video. So we'll get better at that. Research is showing us that the telephone is great for creating a strong empathetic connection. So we got to go back to using the phone again. I think the phone has been a major victim of COVID because we now everybody's got their own Zoom link. And so we just Zoom every time. And there's a lot lost in getting rid of that. So I think that's the second thing, is we need to do a reset on, what are these different options we have and how do we choose more effectively. I guess the third one is we know that estimations of trust depend more heavily on capability when we've got virtual or hybrid teams. But the problem is that it's really hard to know if someone's capable. We can't see if they're struggling. We know there's a lot of social friction to asking for help when you are remote. You don't know who to ask. You don't know what you don't know. You don't want to appear to be incompetent. And so people don't ask for help. So I guess that's the third thing I'm really worried about, is how do we make sure that we do a better job of understanding, who needs help? How do we just routinely not check up on each other, but check in with each other, those sorts of things.
What do you see as the future of teams?
Yeah, great question. I'm not that great as a futurist, but I think one of the biggest opportunities has been really interdisciplinary teams, right? So more and more of the world's challenges are not going to be solved from one vantage point. So I think we're going to go further and further in the direction of just really, so I just think, I mentioned my brother who's a cancer research scientist, but he's a biochemist. His partner is a geneticist. They're friends with health economists, and they're thinking about problems in a more systemic way. Teams are going to have to be able to cope with that kind of thing. So that's exciting, but of course it's hard because we don't speak the same language as one another. Intact teams are so jargon filled, and we have a shorthand. So I think these very interdisciplinary kind of teams are going to push us to get better at, communicating with people who are different from us. Of course, more and more and more global teams. And so wrestling with the cultural differences, I specialize in conflict. There are a few things where there are more differences in parts of the world about how we handle conflict. It's a profound source of friction in teams. And then, I guess the other interesting thing is going to be, how do we even have teams that start to have to, add more value as more and more machine learning, more and more AI comes in. So we're going to be really wrestling with what needs to be done by humans and what doesn't, and how do we optimize that relationship. So that's going to be, it seems like sci-fi kind of stuff at some point, but in so many industries now, the accounting industry, the engineering industry, more and more automation, AI, and machine learning is coming in. Well, I don't think we're ready for that yet.